Well, hello, everyone. Dom Tiberi, joined by Dave Holmes and Adam King. And men, I see these two logos behind us, and I just want to go, not this way.
I drew the short straw.
There you go.
I drew the short straw.
Anyways, it is here. Yep. It is time. And I'm just going to say this. I feel like this Buckeye football team has so much fire that they have such an attitude that they are so fired up for this game. Now, they're not saying anything, but looks and just the way, I mean, you can just tell. Don't you think you can tell?
Yes, they're beyond fired up. Your interview after the game with Cade Stover the other day, he couldn't barely even talk about Michigan because he was trying to keep his tongue from saying something. You could tell how fired up he was. That said, Michigan is also equally fired up. Now, we can debate if they are victims. The debate is, if you have common sense, they are not. But they feel they are, Dom. And, you know, as George Costanza once said, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Hey, you're talking about America's team there?
Yeah, it's America's team.
Nicer.
So they've convinced themselves that it is Michigan versus everybody. I think you have two teams who feel wronged by the other team. And this is, to me, is the most intriguing backstory of any game in the history of this series.
Well, all this business, and it's just pure nonsense. They act like, oh, we're the victims. Victims of what?
Yeah.
Now, you are innocent until proven guilty. Let me just say this. They're guilty of something because Jim Harbaugh was suspended by the conference. We saw some of the stuff that was put out.
And chose to accept it.
Yes. Yeah, they were going to have their day in court, Adam King.
Couldn't wait to have their day in court.
Oh, and then that dropped. And then the number one defense in the country, they fired the linebacker coach.
That's a common thing. You're late in the season, you fire your coach. I get it. Listen, they're not the victims. They know they're not the victims. And I'll say this, the one thing that nobody really kind of thinks about in this moment is everybody's got Michigan as the victim card, and they're playing the free Harbaugh and
well, no, they
Michigan.
Might have it. I don't think everyone does. They're the only ones.
But the amount of distraction this has to cause, I mean, I understand. You know, you could say, hey, we're laser focused. I think it was Harbaugh's line, you know, we're looking forward.
Well, we're America's team.
They're America's team. Yeah. There's no way that this football team, I mean, the world around them is changing at every moment. They're on Twitter. They're on social media. Every 5 seconds, they learn something new about their football team. And, oh, yeah, they've got the number 2 team in the country coming into the big house. And that's a lot to try to just compartmentalize.
Let me just say this. In 2006, it was 1 versus 2, the only time that 1 versus 2 in this series. If everything stays the same, it'll probably be 2 versus 3 on Saturday. This game is bigger.
100%.
And here is why. You got all the stuff that's going on. Michigan created this mess and is now playing victim, and now is saying, oh, they're the ones putting out, oh, Ohio State turned this in, and Ohio State, all this, that didn't happen. But even if it did, you're breaking the rules. The other thing is Ryan Day and the Buckeyes have been on a slow burn for 2 years. It all started after they beat Ohio State up there, and you heard they're not very tough. They're soft. They're not disciplined. And that is still, and when Lou Holtz.
I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
Lou Holtz was the guy that just finally caught it. But when Ryan Day was upset, he didn't like hearing that out of Lou, but that was directed at everyone that's been saying Ohio State is soft.
Well, the funny thing about that and the Lou Holtz thing and this whole idea of competitive stamina and toughness and everything Ryan Day's been about the last 2 years is they were good sound bites, but I don't think until the last 4 to 6 weeks have the Buckeyes actually lived up to that mantra. Even against Notre Dame, those first few games of the season when he was so offended by the criticism, it was a carryover from the last 2 Michigan games. But they were only running the ball for about 3.2 to 3.4 yards a carry. They weren't moving the pile. Now, defense and running, this is a throwback Buckeye football team over the last 4 weeks. This looks like a Jim Tressel team in Ryan Day's roster. I mean, so they still have the explosive playmakers, but this looks like an old-school Buckeye team. They are tougher now than any point in the past 2 years.
Well, you look at, real quick, you talk about the last 4 weeks. There was one big change in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
They got TreVeyon Henderson
32.
back. And good for TreVeyon Henderson, because there were a lot of people that wrote him off, that said, put in Dowan Hayden, put in Chip. Trey, thanks for the time. We don't want you. And he has come back and looked like one of the best backs in the country, and I don't think that's debatable. He really has become the game changer for this Buckeye team.
He's a home run hitter.
He is.
He is the home run hitter. And the other thing I want you guys to think about, the Ryan Day factor. Jim Harbaugh, 2 years ago, had a personal attack on that man.
Third base.
Said he was basically born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. Ryan Day is a class act. And, you know, it built up on him. And when they won that Notre Dame game, the emotion came out. He loves this football team. I think that this football team will go up there and not only be physical, but I think we're going to see a football team the likes that we saw against Georgia. And I know you folks, sometimes you yell at me because Ohio State won that game against Georgia. I'm sorry, if Lou Holtz can say Notre Dame beat Ohio State, and let me just say this. You're telling me, and we were there, you know Ohio State beat Georgia, and if Ohio State plays like that Saturday,
I think if you say
you
they
take away Marvin Harrison
they
Jr.
should have beaten Georgia. It wasn't a target, but that's
that guy.
They're past it.
That guy
They're
at Georgia
past-
knows Ohio State won the game.
If you're watching online, it's about 6.5 minutes on the scrub bar where things went off the rails.
Yeah.
You went back to this argument. They lost to Georgia. They could have won. They probably
They
should have won.
They did win.
But they lost.
But the good
They
news
did
is, as Ryan Day has said, it's a long road back to November. They're here.
Yeah.
None of that matters anymore. The Marvin Harrison hit doesn't matter. The planting of the flag
It
doesn't.
all matters. And
But-
you know why? Because it's building up, and they're going to unleash hell.
Yes, but I also think that there can be, isn't there the old mantra, you don't want to be too over angry. You don't want to go into a game too over hyped up. That's a thing. You want to be able to stick to your roots.
The day of the game, you want to be ready to go, whatever.
I think
I'm not saying you can't win it now. We can get worked up. They need to have a slow build, and Ryan's been building them up.
We
But
can
the
get
day
worked-
of the game,
we can get worked up.
unleash it.
I'm worried about your health, man. Calm down.
I'm just saying
Pace yourself.
that if you actually look on the football field, I think this Ohio State football team is more than capable of going up to Ann Arbor. Now, add in all that juice, 100% it all matters.
I'm looking forward to it.
But I think when you look on paper, the one thing that Michigan has showed the last 2 weeks, mind you, the two of the tougher teams they played, is they're beatable. They are a beatable football team. They're a very good football team. But J.J. McCarthy is no longer in the Heisman race because he has struggled the last 2 games, or he hasn't done anything special. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, when you run the ball 30-plus times in a row, you remove your quarterback from the game plan. I think the biggest thing when you look at this, you can put everything aside. You can put the last 2 years aside, the Georgia game aside. I think this Buckeye team is genuinely good enough to go up to Ann Arbor and handle Michigan, which I think is the important part.
Handle them.
Well, and get in a dog, like you talk about physical. I'm not saying they're going to go up there. And
I
win.
agree with that.
Yeah, like physically handle the toughness that
I don't
everyone
think
says
either
they don't
team
have.
wins this by 2
Let
touchdowns.
me
I
just
would agree.
say this. First of all, I think Jim Harbaugh is a great football coach. I think he has a great mind. No, I'm going to say it.
Clip that soundbite.
It's just a roller coaster of emotion.
I'm going to clip that and play that out of context later.
Well, he is. I
Okay.
mean, he knows the game of football.
He's won everywhere he's been.
Yeah, and I think he's got him playing well, and he's using whatever side. I mean, it's going to take the best game of the year for Ohio State to beat these guys. But, they've got all these emotions that are built up. And that's why this is the greatest rivalry in the world, because the fans' passion and everything. Ryan Day is a great coach, too. I mean, the two best coaches, tell me where I'm wrong on this. The two best coaches in the Big Ten are going to be playing next Saturday.
Brett Bielema would like a word.
Well, Kirk Ferentz has won the Coach of the Year in the Big Ten 76 times.
I like Kirk, but give me a break. Come on.
No, I'm with you. I agree with you. So here's the thing what's so interesting about this game. It's such a legacy-defining game for Ryan Day because he beat them badly. Would have beaten them badly if not for COVID.
Yeah.
Now has 2 losses that I think this fan base, given the allegations, would be willing to just let slide if you win this one. But if you lose this one, Michigan says, what's your excuse now?
Yeah.
No sign stealing this time. And now Ryan Day is not 0-3, but 3 straight losses coming back to the shoe. Whew. You talk about slow burn, that's a hot seat. So I think this is a huge game for Ryan Day's legacy either way.
Absolutely, and Ryan knows it. Ryan has said, hey, I'm at Ohio State. You have to
win that game.
You got to win every game, including the one against he knows what he was walking into. He's rewarded very well for it. And, you root for a guy like Ryan Day. And the reason this is the greatest – the television ratings for this game, guys, will be
maybe the most watched college football regular season game of all time.
I think it might be. Honestly.
And you go back to all of that hype. That is in the Woody. Every moment since they walked off the field 2 years ago in Ann Arbor has led up to this. You're right. It has been a slow burn. But I think the difference, and you kind of touched on this, Dave, with the toughness aspect is you can have every motivation in the world and not have the football team to go complete it. Mm-hmm. They finally, like when you look at the Minnesota game, Kyle didn't play his best game. Kyle would tell you he didn't play his best game. They still won that game 37-3. The idea that you can win a football game with your quarterback not playing his best game, I disagree that they have to play perfect to beat Michigan. I think that they have to go up there and play their best game of the year. And I think that is good enough to walk out with a win. And I don't know if a month ago I would have said that. I think a month ago I would have said everything has to break the Buckeyes' way for them to beat this Michigan team.
Well, Vegas has made Ohio State a 4.5-point underdog. And, I have seen Michigan play a bunch of games this year. We have all seen them. And they have looked impressive.
Yeah.
Now, they have not played the schedule Ohio State has played, but Michigan has beaten everyone like you would think
pretty
they
handily
would.
outside of this Maryland game.
The Maryland game was the only one.
Penn State, they struggled, but they also ran it down their throat.
Yeah, but the Maryland game, I'm going to give them a pass a little bit because, like I said,
but you're not a Michigan apologist.
I'm not. Yeah. But they fired the linebacker coach. I mean, that stuff is a distraction. Listen, the stuff that goes on off the field has been so much a part of this series over the years. I remember Bo Schembechler telling me that, dadgum Woody, he turned the hot water off, and we would have to take cold showers. Woody wouldn't let the guys flush the toilets up in Ann Arbor because Bo had messed with the pipes. Woody threw all they were in a restaurant the night before the game eating their dinner, and Woody kicked out all the female waitresses because Bo had infiltrated them with all these co-eds were trying to take his team off their whatever. And all that stuff. I mean, remember when they supposedly broke into the Michigan locker room down here and stole helmets?
I think through all this, what we're saying is we need more off-the-field drama in this rivalry. I mean,
that's all there is.
Well, it's talk right now, but I mean, we haven't had any water issues recently or plumbing.
Well, that you know of.
That's true.
That you know of.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you didn't steal any helmets lately either, have you?
No, I've not stolen any helmets. No, so I think the 4.5, and we do need to wrap this up, but the 4.5 points to me is a little bit too big. I do think Michigan should be favored because they've won the last two. They're undefeated. They're at home. I do strongly believe, as Ric Flair, a friend of Jim Harbaugh, would say, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and then he would woo. So I think
the woo.
Woo! I think Michigan should be favored.
I feel like there was enough energy there.
I know. I think they should be favored by 2.5 to 3. 4.5 to me is a big line in a game that I think are two really good defenses. I think the final score of this game is going to be like a 24 to 21, 21 to 17 type game.
All right, I'm going 28-24. You are?
I'm going 24-20 Ohio State.
I have no idea what's going to play out in
Well, you got to give a score. That's what we do.
I think 34-28. But
whoa!
Whoa!
We'll take if that's the score, we're going to dance in the streets.
But I just want to say, I can't remember a Ohio State-Michigan game where I had no idea what's going to transpire on the field. I mean, this could go 18 different ways.
I agree.
And you could see Ohio State walk in there and light it up on offense. Finally look like they can. Maryland showed some issues in that Michigan defense. You could see the Ohio State defense finally look like I don't know. I'm going 34-28.
All right, there we have it.
Dom, do you have any more good Michigan stories?
There's a lot of them. I mean, that's the greatest thing about this rivalry.
Yeah. The pipes.
He's going to tell us them all as we try to go to sleep this week.
We have to go. This is
Dave
Holmes. He's Adam King. We'll see you. Keep it on 10 TV.